Lithium Ion Energy, ticker ION on the Toronto Venture Exchange, is among the first movers when it comes to exploring for lithium brine deposits in Mongolia. That is, at the doorsteps of China, the largest lithium consumer globally. But ION also has promising lithium projects in North America. We meet up with CEO Ali Haji today to get a recap of 2023 and his plans for 2024, looking to find out where the focus of this year's activities will be at. Welcome, Ali. Good talking to you again.
Good to be back, Bjorn, and thank you for having me on the show. As you've mentioned, 2023 was a busy year. We spent a lot of time on our Urgak Naran project in Mongolia. That's 29,000 hectares, closed basin, salt flats on surface, double fault bound. And what we found there is, we've done our geophysics. We found 22.7 billion cubic meters at 0.5 ohm or 6.5 ohm cutoff, I should say. Roughly 5 times the size of alpha lithium, which was taken out by Teck Petrol last year to the tune of about $220 million. We also drilled some lithological holes on that asset, and the purpose of which, of course, was to determine, we've seen the resistivity, we've seen the volume, but does this basin in fact contain lithium? And in drilling those lithological holes, we found grades of 320 ppm across 100-meter intercepts on all 3 holes. We drilled down to about 400 meters because the geophysics only gave us visibility down to 400 meters, and we did not hit basement. So that 320 ppm number is an extremely important number because, we've talked about the volume relative to some of our peers, including Teck Petrol, but the 320 ppm would resonate with investors that are familiar with Albemarle Silver Peak in Nevada. It is the only producing brine asset in North America today, and when they conducted similar lithological drilling, their average grade was 121 ppm. So at 320 ppm, we're significantly higher grade than the only operating brine asset in North America. So that's where we sort of stopped activity in Urgak Naran over the course of last summer. We have, of course, acquired 2 additional assets in the Northwest Territories that I could speak to as well. Those were acquisitions in a proven jurisdiction. Lift Power is one of the majors that's out there. You've got Gamma and PMET and various others now in that region as well. But the acquisition was very non-dilutive for our shareholders. It was $127,000, of which $100,000 was in paper at a premium to market. $27,000 was in staking fees. So that was an acquisition that we made last summer. We were hoping to get out there in the fall of last year, but Yellowknife faced some forest fires. And as a result, it was impossible to get the resources aligned to get out and do the work there. So what we're doing there is we will do a small flow-through placement around March or April of this year. That'll fund the exploration activities that will commence there in May and June. It'll include rock chip, channel, and the potential for turning 1 diamond hole to get an understanding of what those deposits truly entail. We've received high-res satellite imagery. We've seen the outcrops on surface, but you can't do much until the snow has melted. And so we do have to wait until the snow has retreated, and then we will start to get some results from the Northwest Territories.
Okay. Well, that's also already an outlook in that regard on what 2024 will be like. But I guess the major part, the big part of your work will still be in Mongolia. Take a step back shortly, because I'm not sure that a lot of people know exactly what the state of things is with Mongolia mining for battery metals and stuff like that. I mean, the Germans had an inkling just recently because our president, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, just visited last week, I think, and of course they were talking about natural resources. So please give us a bit of information here.
Mongolia, I'd say, we went there in 2017 and started Ion Energy. Before we were there in 2017, in fact, a year before we were there, some of the major German auto manufacturers were looking for battery metals in that country. So we beat them to it as far as first movers and setting up shop and actually exploring for lithium. We've also seen Sinomine, which is a major Chinese company that has operations in Canada with the Tanko mine, in Zimbabwe with Bikita as well, look at Mongolia for battery metals. Last summer, Emmanuel Macron of France was in Mongolia signing a $2 billion uranium deal. But the government of France also allocated some hundreds of thousands of euros. I believe that number is 400,000, if I'm correct, towards the exploration of lithium in country as well. So we've seen various entrants look at Mongolia. as a potential for lithium. We've been, of course, the only public company to advance our asset. We've seen our volume, we've seen our scale. And of course, from an infrastructure perspective, I think it's undeniable that being in Mongolia, 7 kilometers from power, tens of kilometers from high-speed rail between Beijing and Ulaanbaatar, your infrastructure is significantly better than perhaps operating in Australia or in the Lithium Triangle, and then ultimately shipping your ore or your concentrate over to China that consumes 53% of the world's lithium. So we've been very fortunate in Mongolia. The government's been very forthcoming with assistance, so much so that we meet with them each time we're in country. And they see us truly as their shift away from coal of the past to renewables in the future. So Mongolia continues to remain our focus. In terms of what you can expect in Mongolia, we are working with various strategic partners to have them come in at the asset level as opposed to the pubco equity level. This reduces dilution, it increases validation for the project, and it brings in skill set that can ultimately turn our projects into producing assets, producing a beneficiated product, paying higher taxes, employing individuals in the country, and becoming a truly local Mongolian lithium company, while we maintain an ownership stake in each of our assets as well.
Okay. Interesting. That's good to hear. Of course, you need different skill sets from exploration to producing, actually. But as you said, you've been drilling, you've been receiving results last year as to the volume, as to the grades. So I think the next step would be a resource calculation. Are you aiming to do that first quarter, second quarter? What are your plans at the moment?
We would do that with our partners. So the strategic partners that we're looking to bring in, Mongolia has a lot of different skill sets. It employs with mining, the significant majority of the GDP contribution comes from mining. Rio Tinto employs 15,000 people at its Oyu Tolgoi plant. So there is significant mining experience and expertise. Where there is a gap that we're looking to fill is around water well drilling, which oil and gas is very similar to water well drilling. But oil and gas, for the most part in Mongolia, is controlled by external entities, and it's in the eastern part of the country. And so the specific skill set around water well drilling is not quite up to par in order for us to go down that path on our own. So the goal would be bring in a strategic investor that has the skill set, has the equipment and the personnel to ensure that they can drill the water wells and ultimately arrive at that inferred resource. So we will be bringing in that strategic to help us get to that. And it's, I suppose, depending on how quickly they move, there are some moving pieces currently in play and some negotiations that are ongoing that could happen very quickly. But it's all really a matter of how quickly we can get them over the line.
Okay, interesting. Well, that takes care of my next questions for now, because of course, financing for juniors is always a concern, especially as the markets sentiment towards lithium has cooled a bit with the falling prices, especially in China. Still, the long-term picture, I think, as most people agree from the industry and also the analysts, is still intact. So we are certainly looking forward to see what the future brings. Then just shortly to perhaps round up, what is, in your opinion, why should people look or take a closer look at ion energy, or lithium ion energy, I should say now?
Yeah, I think, quite simply, the fact that we are situated very close to the largest consumer on the planet. We've been executing in Mongolia for 14 years, where we have fantastic relationships with the government and the local stakeholders as well. We've got the ability to use infrastructure or utilize infrastructure that's already in place in order for us to advance our assets. And as you rightly pointed out, and the analysts have as well, the lithium price will recover. We see it sitting around 20 to 24,000. That's sort of where it should be in order for it to be to bring a lot of the supply online, but also because that's where the pricing should be when we have the inventory reduce in China, as well as the economy in China start to pick up again, which it has slowed down a tad in the last year or so. So at that point, you start to see a lot of things come online. And when we started Ion Energy, lithium was 2,500 a ton. So we're not, a company that started in the last 2 years chasing the $98,000 high that we saw last year. At 2,500 a ton, being in Mongolia, being as close as we are to the largest consumer, we knew we could turn a profit. So if the price is $20,000, we'll still be extremely profitable. We've got the right technical team, we've got the right country relationships, and we're about to bring on the right strategic relationships.
Okay, thank you. Sounds like a good closing remark right here. And looking forward to talking again, perhaps when we meet at PDAC in Toronto, which is coming pretty close. Then we will have some more information about this strategic to talk about. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bjorn. Always a pleasure.
Great having you.